came quite late, so we'll directly say Dr. Deep Goyal to present the metabolic surgery. I think that is the topic of the day nowadays. So many persons there are suffering from this problem, and one of the ease thing which is there, which has come in the recent, not very old, it is the recent, in about 5 to 10 years, that we have the metabolic surgery for that. And Dr. Deep Goyal is present on that. Thank you, Dr. Deep Goyal, please.
Thank you very much. At the outset, I would like to thank Monica and Hemant for inviting me here. I'm the last man standing. I understand you people are all tired mentally, and he has given me a difficult topic, the mechanism of bariatric surgery in metabolic syndrome. So I'll be talking about how bariatric surgery helps in metabolic syndrome. It's a very, very difficult and confusing topic, but I've tried to simplify it, and I will see how I can do justice to the topic. How things have changed in the last 30 years. When I went to England for my training in '96, my boss was a British guy of Indian origin, third generation in England, and how he welcomed me to say, to be a successful surgeon, you need 3 qualities. I said, what? I had all the years. He said, you must have grey hair to show that you have experience. Obviously, that time I was a trainee, so I didn't have grey hair. Then he said, you must have paunch to show that you are prosperous. Then he said, you must have hemorrhoids. I said, hemorrhoids? I was surprised. Why hemorrhoids? He said, when you sit on piles, there is a pain on your face, and patient feels that you are concerned about the patient. So that day I decided I don't want to be famous. Okay, as all of us know, that obesity is a killer, and a lot has been already said, so I'm not going to waste time. It has reached epidemic levels worldwide, and India is not an exception. It's the largest single preventable cause of death, which leads to major morbidity and mortality. This is something which is very, very important to understand. 2.3 billion adults are overweight over the world, more than 700 million are obese, and 2.8 million adults die each year due to obesity-related cardiovascular disease. This is the magnitude of the disease which we are facing, friends. This slide shows so many diseases. We all know that as obesity is associated with a lot of diseases like diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, hyperlipidemia, arthritis, but cancer is one of the very, very important factors which has been very recently proven by a lot of research and literature that cancer is a very, very important disease related to obesity and metabolic surgery. These are the list of the cancers which are very, very common in people who are obese, and since I'm a GI surgeon, most of the cancers here are from the GI origin. Not only the incidence of the cancer is common in obese people, but these people who suffer from cancer and who are obese, the morbidity and the mortality of the disease is much higher as compared to the same disease in the patient who is not obese, which is very important. I think this has already been discussed, the definition of metabolic syndrome, and there are a lot of analysis available. This is a meta-analysis of 22,000 patients. There's a complete resolution of diabetes after 5 years in 76% patients, and 80% decrease in annual mortality at 9 years after bariatric surgery. There's a huge, huge trial by Butchward which had 22,000 patients. Again, this also has been talked in great detail, but a few words about NASH and NAFLD, which is of great importance to us today, and it is grossly underdiagnosed and grossly undertreated, grossly misunderstood. So I think a lot of us need to pay a lot of attention to NASH and NAFLD and its future progression to cirrhosis and hepatocellular carcinoma. Coming to the main topic, what is the mechanism of metabolic resolution after bariatric surgery? It is yet to be fully determined. It is multifactorial and complex and confusing, and is still subject of intense research. And in our department itself, there are 4 thesis protocols which are undergoing at the moment for metabolic resolution. So I have divided the mechanism into 2 parts. One is weight loss dependent mechanism, which we all know, and second is a weight loss independent mechanism. So obviously there is something else which is going on after bariatric surgery, which is weight loss independent. And you will be surprised to know that in a lot of patients, resolution of diabetes and resolution of OSA happens within hours after surgery. So we will have a set of patients who is on insulin, not well controlled, who use CPAP machine for sleeping, and within 72 hours, there's a huge resolution in both the symptoms. Initially, we were surprised how this happened so quickly, but gradually we have now tried to understand this. So looking at the weight loss dependent pathways, obviously as the weight loses, there is an insulin sensitivity index which increases. There is an increase in insulin sensitization hormones, namely adiponectin, and decrease in the insulin receptor in the muscles. Decrease in fat in liver and muscles, which again leads to the increased sensitivity of the insulin. And all the above occur many months to years after profound weight loss has happened. So there is something else which is happening in resolution of all these comorbidities. Is it food? Is it only the restriction of the food? Or there are certain GI factors? So there are two kinds of hormones or neurohormonals, if I may use that word. One is insulinogenic and one is glucogenic. There are so many neurohormones. I think there are around 20,000 neurohormones which we already know of by names, and we assume that there are millions which we do not know of, which are interacting. So some of the very important ones are incretins, cholecystokinin, ghrelin, enteroglucolons, peptide YY, leptin, GLP-1. These are some of the important ones. So what is the evidence for weight loss independent anti-diabetic effects? There's a rapid diabetes improvement after bariatric surgery, as I said, within hours to days. And there's a greater glycemic improvement with bariatric surgery than with equivalent weight loss from other means, most likely due to the gut hormones. So if you have a person who has lost 10 kilograms of weight in 3 months' time, and you have a person who has lost 10 kilograms of weight by bariatric surgery, the effect is very different. There are certain theories which will prove what I'm saying. If you look at the hindgut theory, what happens after bariatric surgery? There is a bypass of the intestine. So there is a rerouting of the undigested food to distal bowel. That means the food is not coming in contact with the foregut. It is directly reaching to the distal ileum. And there is a L cell secreting GLP-1 and peptide YY. So there is a decrease in appetite and increase in insulin secretion because of increase in GLP-1 and peptide YY. Both these hormones will lead to increased insulinogenic effect, hence reducing the blood glucose levels. Foregut hypothesis. Similarly, when there is a presence of food in proximal small bowel, it releases diabetogenic hormones. After bariatric surgery, since the food is not coming in contact with the proximal small bowel, this effect is not there. So diabetogenic effect of the hormone is absent, leads to decreased glucose level. Effect of GLP-1 on insulin and glucagon. A very important thing to understand. This is the crux basically. So preoperatively, GLP-1 levels are low in obese patients. This we know. Bariatric surgery leads to increase in GLP-1, as I explained by hindgut theory and the foregut theory. Increase in GLP-1 leads to enhanced steps of insulin biosynthesis. It stimulates the beta cell proliferation, which again leads to insulin biosynthesis. Enhanced differentiation of new beta cell, pancreatic progenitor cells, and inhibits the glucagon secretion. So all these steps are interlinked and they cause increase in insulin level, decrease in glucose levels. Again, GLP-1 also has effects of CNS pathways. There is a peripherally increased GLP-1 which acts on CNS, and there is a decreased food, water intake, and it promotes satiety. So you eat a small amount and you feel full. Not only by the method of restriction, but also by the method of CNS pathways. Cholecystokinin, similarly, it stimulates insulin secretion and in glucose dependent manner, and that further leads to decreased glucose levels. Bariatric surgery increases the enteroglucagon, another neurohormone, which again acts as an insulinogenic hormone and decrease glucose level by stimulating insulin secretion, by reducing appetite, by reducing calorie intake, and by inhibiting glucagon. Very important, by the way of acting on CNS after bariatric surgery, there is a reduced hunger, increased satiety, altered taste. This is very strange. A lot of our patients say that they do not like the taste of water. That's the commonest food or liquid which they say that they don't like taking water. They feel vomiting after taking water. It it was used to be very surprising initially in the initial days that why a person is having aversion to water, but he or she can take juices, can take soups, can take coconut water, but for pure water there is a dislike. We now do understand that there is an aversion to certain kinds of food. There is an altered taste and altered smell. So they will come and say, Dr. Saab, we used to like Chinese food so much, but now whenever the Chinese food come in front of me, I feel nausea. I don't like the smell. So there is obviously something happening through the CNS which is causing aversion to certain kind of food. There is a decreased reward value of sweet. Again, we understand that. And this has been proven by MRI studies that lower brain hedonic response to the food is less after RYGB. Again, as I was saying, it's the same thing in different words. Stampede trial has very clearly shown after 3 years in a meta-analysis that there's after randomizing 150 patients, the medical therapy versus intensive surgical therapy with RYGB and sleeve gastrectomy, that there is a decrease in weight, increased weight loss in surgical group, which is maintained for longer period, and also the glycemic control is up to the 90% at 3 years without the use of insulin, which is very, very encouraging. So they concluded by saying that bariatric surgery is superior to intensive medical therapy alone in glycemic control in these particular patients. Dr. Mohan had mentioned on the slide that there is a lot of complications and mortality after bariatric surgery. I would like to disagree with him because the larger trials have shown all over the world that mortality after bariatric surgery is similar to the common surgeries done like cholecystectomy, colectomies, hip replacements and hysterectomies. It is proven without doubt, and our own results in our center, we have done more than 1,000 cases and we have 3 deaths related to surgery in our center, so that is 0.3%. Again, this has been published in NHGM that weight loss surgery can reduce mortality up to 30% in long term. So as we know, there is a paradigm shift in understanding of obesity, metabolic syndrome and its treatment. Obesity is now considered as a disease, a curse to society, and bariatric surgery is not considered as a cosmetic surgery anymore. Central government employees are being paid by government to undergo bariatric surgery, and they have very clearly said that it is not a cosmetic surgery. That is why there is no luxury tax on these surgery like in other cosmetic surgeries, and a lot of insurance companies are now coming forward to tell this. Central government, as I was telling you, is paying 2.25 lakhs for this surgery to the centers who are approved. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to say that all of us have to take a pledge to treat and to diagnose this dinosaur and help in whichever way we can. To conclude my talk, I would say surgical weight loss increases lifespan, and it is an effective means to achieve clinically significant permanent weight loss, which leads to significant and long-lasting improvements in metabolic comorbidities. We believe that surgery in recent future would be an important tool to resolve type 2 diabetes mellitus, not only in obese people, but for people with normal BMI. Indications of surgery are being relaxed at a rapid rate, and in fact, International Diabetic Federation in their last position statement has said that people who are on medical treatment, optimal medical treatment, not well controlled, or having complications because of diabetes at 27.5 BMI, bariatric surgery or metabolic surgery should be considered in them. And to end my talk, I would say that these kind of surgeries are not possible without a good team, and it is a multidisciplinary approach. So the surgery should not be taken lightly. They should be done in the centers which are geared up and there are trained teams available. Don't let what you can't do stop you from doing what you can do, is a quote which I remember, and I thought I would end my talk with this. Thank you very much for patient hearing.